Bienvenidos a la Daily Hustle. Soy Enrique Byrnes y presidente es el mejor cerveza. Abate por No Filter Network. Miguelito San Diego.
Yes, 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 yes,
Yes! Dude, it's been fucking way too long since we've had you on the show. Let's go every Friday. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Yeah, that's a great way to end the American Business Week. Then having Kowalski and the Brociopath himself dial in a little fellowship here on the world-renowned Daily Hustle.
You know what's crazy, big? Obviously, I'm like, bro, 9 o'clock. Does that work? I asked you for a time that works. I'm so used to just coming on whenever. And you never know how long the Daily Hustle written email communication is going to take. And then with that, actually, I send out an IG post. So I'm in the midst of all this, and I'm looking at 9 o'clock, and it was 8. I'm like, yeah, no problem. It goes to show you, look, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I thought I could kind of speed through it and whatever. It's like, you know what? Fuck, man. I think that no matter what in life, you have to put everything you have into everything you do. And I'm like, I can half-ass this and try to get to the show by 9 for Kowalski and this and that, and I get it. And then I told you 9:30, and obviously a few more minutes after that. But ultimately, dude, there's certain things in life, like mandatory shit that you have to get done. Like that post and that email, I had to get out before we started this show. It's just all part of the process. So thank you for your patience, your understanding, and most importantly, your presence here this morning on the Daily Hustle.
I say this with all sincerity, and you know that. I speak with sincerity. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you today.
Dude,
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I want to hear about this Mindbender pod because I do actually watch them. I'm not fucking with you. And you send them, I may not watch them right away, but I'll go back and I'll just fire one on. Really consistent, regular, great content you're putting out there on No Filter Network, man.
Well, thank you, man. You many years ago, when I remember the first No Filter recording I did, I had about a 5-foot ladder set up with a couple of old bean cans that held up the phone in my garage. So we've come a long way here. The production value, the ability to sit with the camera going on. I mean, you had, 10 years of experience with this as an Emmy award-winning broadcaster with MLB Network, before you went off that mountain and into your second mountain, right? But for me, it was like, oh shit. It was like the feeling of when you're not used to it and the camera and the lights come on, all of a sudden your voice starts to change. You might be repeating a word that 3 months down the line, your co-host says, hey man, stop saying that word. I go, I don't say that word. And then he shows you that you said it 11 times in 2 minutes. So
what was that?
It was, of course.
Of course. Dude.
I said, I don't believe I say that. You're like, yo, man, you're saying it all the time. And it just goes to show that what we perceive as reality is not. No. So, yeah, man, here we are. We've come full circle.
But it's just reps. It's just the matter of being able to slow down, I think, when you talk, and you don't necessarily have to fill the air with the ums and the buts and the whatever. Like, I used to take a lot of grief when I first got into radio for the longer pauses. And I thought to myself, I go, you know what? Fuck it. I would rather intentionally say something than just speak to speak, if that makes sense.
Something I'm still learning. I remember I was at an event and I was asked a question in front of probably 40 people. And this was a couple of years ago. And my response was, and the person goes, is not a high level response, Kowalski. Try again tomorrow. And I remember the horror in the pit that I fell in my stomach. And that person came to me later and said, look, man, if you don't know what to say, then shut the fuck up and
Come on,
just let it come to you. And I said, oh,
come on.
wow. Well, I've never heard it that way before. That makes perfect sense.
Oh, dude, it's so good. I do appreciate people like that in my life
Mm.
that were always honest and transparent, because I think we do live in a world where everybody likes to, not everybody, but a good amount of people much prefer to criticize and chastise behind people's back as opposed to actually confront the person and give them constructive criticism that will help them charge forward.
It's awful tasting medicine, but the patient needs it. And we need truth tellers in our lives that aren't going to stroke our ego, but yet hold us accountable and hold the line. And you're talking about, looking in the whites of somebody's eyes. I think this could be the first live recording we've done in years where we don't have blades on. I'm sure a lot of people out there are wondering, did it's great to know that Byrnes and Kowalski both have human eyes.
You know what's funny? Like, I typically do wear my shades here in the morning. We have the sun peeking out over Mount Rose to the east, and I just like wearing the shade. Now, I'll do my shows obviously with Will later at night, and I'm not wearing the shades. But you're right. Like, I do think a lot of people didn't realize, especially you, that you actually had human eyes.
Yeah, it's a real gift to be able to see and feel and hear and walk on my two legs. We are blessed beyond measure. So blessed when the day comes in, blessed when the day goes out, and blessed to be here, planting trees of which the shade you and I will never sit under. But the hope is we can have an impact, on people and, on performance, because better people make better players, bro.
And a very pleasant good morning to our friend John Davis from Collierville, Tennessee, loyal daily hustler. Kowalski, of course, you remember John Davis.
Of course, I remember JD. He is about as loyal as they come. Not a first time, long time, but a long time every time. John Davis.
That's so fucking good. Kowalski, so I just sent the email out. For old time's sake,
Mhm.
if you could pull
Oh,
that
great.
up, if you have it, and let's
Mhm.
do a old school Kowalski reading, because that's how this process used to go.
Ooh, do it now, I believe is
Now,
today's.
not later, now. That is the title.
My father used to say, hey, don't be your T.O. Manny and have a manana attitude, kid. And that always stuck with me.
So
Wherever my
Uncle Manny
wherever
had a
my
tomorrow attitude.
Oh, Uncle Manny was Mr. Mignana, and
Wow.
now he went so Mr. Mignana that that he disappeared somewhere in Mexico to avoid back child payment. So, yeah, you think, oh, you come from what quite a lineage, multi-generational families of impact. Not so much. Sometimes you got to break the chain and start that shit yourself.
I will
Today's
say,
daily hustle.
hey, in Manny's defense, though,
Yes,
uh,
yes, yes.
the nickname Manana Manny is pretty cool.
That's actually the first time that's been said, but he will be known henceforth as Mignana Manny. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I'm going to actually reach out to the matriarch of my family, the great Ana Maria Lopez, who had a 68th birthday on November the 17th. It's always on Iron Man Day, so I'm late to the party on wishing her a happy birthday. But my friend John Elvis Tasca and I, post race at around 10:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, sang her happy birthday from inside of John Elvis Tasca's Airstream trailer that he had parked off the race finish line.
Very cool. Very,
Mm-hmm.
very cool. All right, dude. So I know you have a call coming up at 11 o'clock your time, 10 a.m. my time, but let's get through this email for old time's sake, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Daily hustle quote of the day: begin to be now what you will be hereafter. End quote, by the great William James. Daily hustle translation. Throughout different phases of my life, I have had aspirations of becoming a UCLA student, a professional baseball player, a sports broadcaster, a triathlete, an ultra runner, a writer, an entrepreneur, a speaker, a coach, and a pickleballer. With each of these endeavors, I have had and will continue to have visions and goals of who and what I wish to become. And there is no doubt our imagination and foresight are continually impacting our reality. That said, it's not what we imagine and hope for that creates who we are. It's what we do. If we want to go to a certain college, study. If we want to be a professional baseball player, play baseball. If we want to be a sports broadcaster, broadcast. If we want to be a triathlete, swim, bike, and run. If we want to be an ultra runner, run really far. If we want to be a writer, write every day. If we want to be an entrepreneur, start a business. If we want to be a speaker, speak. If you want to be a coach, coach. If you want to be a pickleballer, play pickleball. Each morning we are able to lift our head off the pillow is a blessing and an opportunity to reinvent ourselves simply by the actions we take. Choose intentionally and choose wisely, because at the end of the day, what we do is who we are. EB. Click below, and that's the postscript for those of you who are on the email. If you can click below for the IG post and blue link below to join today's Daily Hustle with special guest Miguelito Diaguito Kowalski on the world's premier live streaming interactive event and podcasting hosting platform, nofilter.net. EB?
Oh, man. Yeah, give me a few of your quick thoughts on this, because I was inspired by the quote, just basically talking about, you know, do what you want to become, right? And I took it a step further and I said, you got to do it now. And here's all of these different things in my life, Kowalski, that I aspired to do. I wanted to go to college and play baseball. I wanted to play baseball professionally. I wanted to become a broadcaster. I wanted to become a triathlete. And you've been there for a lot of these, right? And not necessarily the entrepreneur thing. It was like a vision and how I could make, my life and the lives of others more convenient with No Filter Network, and how this could provide a different sort of platform. So you have all these things in the speaking thing, right? If you want to be a speaker, and it's a very lucrative career, and immense opportunities out there, you got to speak though, right? You got to go through it. So I went through all these things, including pickleball being the latest one, and obviously writing. Bro, if you want to fucking do it, don't tell me you want to do it. Just fucking do it. That's it, right? If you want to be a fucking podcaster and you want to be a mental performance coach and switch completely your role in life and what you were doing and what you're doing now, what I told you to do? Just fucking do it. You can't sit around and wait and talk about it and, hey, maybe down the road or maybe this. No, do it, and do it right fucking now. Your thoughts?
3 frogs are sitting on a log. One frog makes a decision to jump. How many frogs are on the log?
2.
Correct. And that's the elite mindset of a guy who's fucking in the arena doing it, not letting the start stop him because the frog just made the decision. Right?
Yeah.
Not correct. There's 3 frogs on the log. He made the decision to jump. Hey, man, I'm going to be a podcaster. I'm going to be an ultra runner. I'm going to be a speaker. You made the decision, but the problem is in between the decision and the thing is the action. So 3 frogs are still on the log. So we've got to make not just the decision, but take the next best step. So oftentimes it's the start that stops us. We talked about this all the time. And oftentimes we freeze in terror and fear of the gap from where we are to where we want to go. You make a decision. That's the dude I want to be. And then the gap from where you are to where you want to be is so large that we freeze in horror and fear of the all too real fact of the journey ahead. Instead of just going, okay, maybe I'll put out a 5-minute podcast today. Maybe I'll get in front of my family and speak a little bit. Right? Instead of that, we freeze and we become the frog on the log that made the decision and then just never took the action and sat on the log for eternity with the other 2 frogs talking about what they wanted to be. So we don't want to hear people talk about it. We want to see them be about it. And that's what differentiates us from the birds and the dogs and the robots and the geese that can only fly south, is that we have choice. Oh, you don't like where you live? Get up and move. You're not a tree, right? So oftentimes it's like everybody's got the same wind. And people are bitching about the wind. Everybody's got the same wind. Instead of bitching about the wind, learn how to set a better sail and
Yeah.
become a better sailor. So, yeah, and then just take the action, because K minus A equals N. Knowledge minus action equals nothing. So, yeah, you always putting out great content on the DH emails, man. Those are real powerful emails from somebody who's been to the top of the mountain and sipped the juice. It's like success leaves clues.
It
There is
does.
certainly an element of all the branches of the tree that you've done that other people can look to that and go, okay, he did it, I can do it. Maybe it's a limiting belief. Maybe it's a skill that you haven't acquired. Maybe you're too fearful to go up into the cave and face the dragon, but it's the cave you fear to enter that holds the treasures that you seek. And trust me, I know going back down into the valley after thinking you're on your mountain is a scary proposition, because that predisposes that you're going into the darkness before you go back up to the mountain. You know, that's your mountain over there. Now you got to go back into the valley, reinvent, and go back through it. You got to be courageous enough to let old parts of yourself die off to become this new version of who you are.
But I truly believe that so often people fail to jump
Mm.
because they're scared to fail. And they actually attach their ego to what they're doing, or what they have done in the past, or what they aspire to do in the future. And when you have that fear of failure come in, it makes you hesitant. So ultimately, I would say I would always look at, like, worst case scenario, right? Rock bottom, so to speak. And I just recently entered my first pickleball tournament, earlier in the summer. It's like, am I ready? I don't know if I'm ready, but if I go there, like, what's sort of worst case scenario? I don't know. I don't win a point. I get fucking pickled over and over and over again by whoever it is I play in this tourney. Is it that bad? I got to go out there and play against really good pickleball players, and I might get my ass kicked. I might not, whatever, but I'm willing to accept that. And then when you go in with this mentality, like, okay, here is this worst case scenario. And I certainly would not recommend focusing and fixating on that. But when you say, fuck it, right? Like, I remember my first big league at bat. So gosh damn nervous, dude. In the batter's box, like the whole journey, to get to Cleveland that day is a whole nother story. But I get in there and I'm up against Chuck Finley. And I remember doing the thing that I would always do, and it's a little stretch here, down here, and then I jump up in the air and then tap myself on the head. And it literally was, whew, fuck it, let's go. And immediately at that point, I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? I strike out? So what? And even when I had 2 strikes on me in that at bat, the fear of failure was fucking gone. It just, when you become okay with it and you understand that, hey, that's there, sure, and it could happen, I think it frees you up to be the person and be the player that you actually want to be. And that's not just in baseball, but that's in life. It's in fucking everything. It's from an entrepreneur standpoint and everything else. So it's, again, pickleball, speaking, broadcasting, all of it goes together.
And you bring up fear. Oftentimes it's like failure and fear are two dirty little things that nobody really ever wants to talk about. But the truth is that both failure and fear are the things that every one of us as human beings share, but we don't talk about it. And fear, just like disgust, can have a negative connotation as a word, but can have a very positive physical response. You can because of the fear, you can go, I'm getting up early to prepare. I'm hitting my fucking routines. I'm going to eat right. My mindset's going to be dialed in. My mobility and movement's going to be tight, and I'm going to sleep well. So that fear can drive you to make sure that you don't neglect the easy to do things. That's the things, right? If you look at what you do, right, from when you wake up, they go, oh, that's pretty easy. Yeah, easy, but not simple. And what is easy to do? I define easy to do as something that you can do. So if it's easy to do, Bernsey, then it's also easy what?
To not do.
To not do, dude. That's the dirty little secret. And then we go, that's an easy one. I'll get to it. I'm going to get to that tomorrow. And then the problem is, if you do that 500 times, your life is a wrap. You end up living where you don't want to live, driving what you don't want to drive, being around people you don't want to be around. And the thing is, everybody's going to end up somewhere tonight, tomorrow, 5 years from now. And the major question to ask is, will it be a well designed or undesigned destination? The
Yeah.
reason that you do this, Burns, the reason you've done everything you've done and you don't have to do shit is because you want to leave an impact, because you want to teach guys the system and the formula that got you to where you are. You want guys to have a well-designed future in front of them, a place of productivity and fulfillment and happiness and connection and love and grace and joy and strength and adventure. So, yeah, don't neglect, because neglect of the easy things to do starts out as an infection and becomes a disease. Oh, I got this little prick on my finger, man. Hey, man, you should get that looked at, dude. Looks a little red and puffy. That's fine. And then 3 weeks later, your hand gets chopped off. This is what we're talking about.
Well, I love the fact that you have fear, and that fear, once recognized, will then motivate you
Yes.
to do the work. And I, look, I'm constantly learning. Even when I write these daily hustles, I kind of talk them out, right? As I'm
Mm,
writing, and I was thinking to myself, like, where does fear fit into all this? And I just think you made the most fucking brilliant point, is that fear drives me to be prepared. That's it.
yes.
And
Yeah.
so if we use fear the right way, not in the,
Mm,
oh no, I'm scared and I'm timid and no, I just can't perform. It's no. Look, we know there's this fear there. We recognize that the fear is there. So what do? We go out, we fucking prepare. Do it so many times
mm,
that you can't get it wrong, right? Like there's a whole
mm,
thing where it says like,
mm.
hey, do it until you think you're ready, type of thing. It's like, no, no, do it so many fucking times. Go through the reps so many times. It's just you're not going to get it wrong. You can't get it wrong. It's like studying for a test. There's nothing worse than going into a test and knowing that you're not prepared and you don't
Mm.
have the answers. I hated that feeling. That's what drove me to be a good student. I'm like,
Yeah.
fear of failure, fear of not doing my best drove me to be a great student. That was huge. It was everything. Same thing with baseball. Look, if I fucking fail, it's okay. But guess what? You better goddamn believe I'm gonna be prepared. That's it. That's it.
When in the best, it's not like they don't feel fear, but they recognize the power of fear, false evidence appearing real. Because oftentimes, the fear that you feel is false evidence appearing real, and your feelings are not facts, right? Feel ain't real. It's real here, but man, when you put the uni on, like for you, you go through so many of the steps that Ken Revisa taught, sort of in your own system, built your own way. Like
Yeah.
what you did approaching the box, walking up to home plate, 10 feet tall and bulletproof, the barrel in the dominant hand, getting a little stretch, seeing, feeling here in the dirt underneath you, hitting your head. That was like, boom, my hitter's hat is on now. Pow, that physical, and boom, now I'm a hitter, right? Now I'm the best hitter in the world. So all these, like, oh, Burns, he's just, no, everything is a system and a routine, and man is a slave, like the great OG Mandino said. He's a slave to his habits and routines, good or bad. So
Mhm.
are you using fear as fuel? Are you using failure as feedback, or are you allowing it to let you cower and hide away and then be too scared to go into the cave that you fear to enter, holding all the treasures that you seek? How are you using fear? Right?
Smile.
Like, but
Smile.
Jordan
Remember this.
Jordan
Oh,
missed
smile.
6,000 shots.
Smile.
6,000. He
No.
missed over 300 game-winning shots. Nobody talks about that. You think he had a fear of failure? The great Doug Collins, who I developed a relationship with, I talked to him about MJ. Every time I try to get an MJ story, I said, "Tell me about Jordan." And he said he walked up to him after he hits a game winner. He goes, Michael, how do you do it, man, every time?" He goes, "Coach, greatness doesn't fear failure." And that was it. He just walked off. It was like, it wasn't even a thought in his mind. So, yeah, I think that's a really important aspect of becoming, you know, a better person and a better player, is understanding how to use fear as fuel. So, yeah, man, I'm 100%.
I'd like to say good morning to the one, the only, the great Mike Crudelli. Uh,
Oh,
it is fucking Friday, and Crudelli comes on here. He says, "Fuck yeah, Friday." Good morning, Brosios.
thank you, Crudelli. As you see, we've got Sparky up here now too, along with the Brociopath and myself. We've now added Sparky to the
So
bobble
good.
to the elite three-man bobblehead up there.
Hey, let's not forget our title sponsor, Bet Online, the number one online gambling destination for all the latest news, scores, odds, predictions. Go to Bet Online, your number one online gambling spot. You can bet on anything and everything. And try Verge. Have you tried the Verge yet? Jory Wolf,
Yeah,
our guy over at tryverge.com, keeps supplying this gift of life. It is honey, it is ginger, it is cannabis. It gives you not the high feeling, but just like the right amount of like to help you
no
calm.
psychoactive effects. Yep, they call it mother's milk, right? That's what they call it. Is that what they're calling it now? Because it just gives you that warm feeling, huh? That warm,
Oh,
good feeling.
I got the warm, good feeling inside. All right, Kowalski. So hey, look, man, every Friday, let's come on here and we'll call it Fuck Yeah Friday. Thank
Yeah,
you
and
really
stay
for
in
that.
that. Be careful what you're fucking, right? You got to be careful what you're fucking. Fuck me? Oh, never good. Fuck you? You can bring the dog out for an inning or two, but that's not going to serve you long term. What will serve you long term and set you up for the most consistent and confident performance outcomes is the fuck it bucket. So stay in that fuck it bucket, right? And if you want to be a prepared, dedicated, and committed ball player and person in the future, you start that shit today. You already know, Bernsey.
Kowalski, where can people find you on the Mindbender Pod?
Yeah, the Mindbender Mental Performance podcast. That's exclusively on nofilter.net. Also on the nofilter.net YouTube channel. You can find the last 37 episodes of the Mindbender Mental Performance podcast exclusively on the YouTube channel. The other 100 were banned for digital copyright music infringement. So if you want to go see the banned episodes, which is pretty damn cool, you can go check those out at nofilter.net. Otherwise, go to the YouTube page and get the latest 37 shows.
One last thing for you, Kowalski, because it's
I
been
know.
so
Go
long.
ahead, do it.
See
Do it.
ya!